Hello and welcome to my channel Polyglot Reading. My name is David and usually I talk here about classics of world literature. But today I would like to start a new small series on classics of science fiction literature. So far I have read very little science fiction, so I am not at all an expert of this genre, but I find it a very fascinating one and I would like to read more from this genre in the future. And so I have just recently joined a small group of science fiction enthusiasts, and this is a group in which we read a few anthologies of short stories written by important science fiction authors. And we have just started, so today I would like to present you the first story that we read together in this group. It is the story Repent, Harlequin, said the Ticktockman, a story written by Harlan Ellison. Okay, what is this story about? It is a dystopian story about a fictitious technocratic society of the 24th century in which a totalitarian state organization controls the life of its citizen in a really dictatorial way. All done under the premise of achieving maximum efficiency, maximum time efficiency and productivity for the society. And so that means that the lives of all the citizens are regulated by the state down to really, literally down to the second. Time efficiency and usefulness are really almost sort of a state religion, and everything is really prescribed in the society. There's a kind of a meticulously planned economy that regulates exactly the production and the demand and the consumption of all goods, and the citizens are all things are prescribed to the citizens down to the smallest details for how they have to live. For example, there are also weekday-specific clothing regulations and so on. And things like leisure, play, fun, nonsense, free time, dawdling, they are not only frowned upon, but they are considered to be real crimes. And so the state not only controls the time records of all citizens, but controls also their lifetime via so-called cardioplates. And this is done according to a very simple but rigorous system. So if you're late by 10 minutes, for example, you're late to work, then your lifetime will be shortened by 10 minutes as a sort of punishment. And those who are constantly late or are wasting time, they are finally shut down with just 1 day's notice. So shut down means their life is ended. And so there is a faceless and nameless individual known only by his nickname, the Ticktockman, who is the supreme authority who is watching over the observance and enforcement of these time rules. However, the story is not told in such a linear and coherent way as I have described now the setting and this environment. Rather, the reader has to piece together the full characteristics of this strange world bit by bit from the sometimes casual remarks that are made throughout the narrative. And the story seems as if the narrator of the 24th century is addressing a contemporary readership. Also, that means readers who also live in the 24th century and who live exactly in that society that is described. So they know everything. They do not need the whole setting being explained to them. This, of course, makes the whole story seem particularly authentic, like a real contemporary factual report. And so this effect, this illusion, as if the story was addressed to an audience of the 24th century, is also supported by a nice narrative means. That is, there's a quite large number of names and specific terms for objects, or like food or vehicles or anything, terms that are unknown, incomprehensible to us, but they are not explained in the story, they are not defined. So there are words like swizzle kids, a wiggler, poplikeys, minies, and so on. Sometimes the context gives you a rough idea of what it is, whether it is sort of a vehicle or a sort of food, but some things just remain incomprehensible. But so this is a nice alienation effect to make this mysterious future world appear more authentic, and to make it appear in all its strangeness before our eyes and ears. But it in no way it hinders the understanding of the plot. So it doesn't hinder your understanding that there are some incomprehensible words. Okay, so, but what is the plot actually? In a nutshell, in this world geared towards maximum time efficiency and productivity, there's a rebel, a nonconformist. So there's someone who is not satisfied with the dictates of time and a life that is only geared towards utility without any joy and free time and leisure and nonsense. So there's this troublemaker who has no sense of punctuality, but a great sense of humor and a great sense for the necessity for fun and nonsense. And this rebel is now disrupting the public order with some small but very effective actions in which he unexpectedly appears, usually dressed up as a harlequin, and causes some mischief, but really harmless things. For example, he's pouring millions of jelly sweets over a marching column of workers who are either marching towards the beginning of their shift or returning from their shift. And this leads to a delay of 7 minutes in the grand schedule, so which is almost a mortal sin, of course. Or he sets off fireworks, and not only wasting money, but also the time of the people who are marveling at the fireworks instead of being productive. And of course, all this troublemaking brings the Ticktockman onto the scene, and Harlequin is searched for, and he's caught because his own girlfriend betrayed him. Very sad. And actually, I think he should be following the rules. He should be switched off. But the Ticktockman is clever, and he knows that a dead harlequin will be of no use, but a re-educated, obedient harlequin who conforms to the system, that would be of much greater use to him. And so it happens that they put Harlequin through the mill. The narrator does not go into the details. He only says that they do to the Harlequin what they did to Winston Smith in 1984. And anyone who has read George Orwell's novel 1984 knows that this refers to months of torture, the breaking of the personality through very targeted horror scenarios and terror, and ultimately it means brainwashing and re-education. And so sometime later, a re-educated and now completely conformist, compliant Harlequin is presented one day in the communication network, and it announces to the whole world what a good thing it is to belong to society and to be a useful and punctual and efficient and effective member. So, what do I think of this story? Honestly, I liked it very, very much, and I really enjoyed reading it. First of all, in terms of content, I think I have a certain fancy for dystopias, because I think they are really a good way for me, at least for me, to become aware of the consequences of certain trends or developments in our society. If there is a trend that worries us in a diffuse ways, they cannot yet fully assess or categorize, I think it's a good approach to take this sort of a literary approach to play a sort of thought game, to speculate what it might look like if this trend continues. Can we extrapolate it? What will happen if it radicalizes, if it is going to be implemented to the extreme, what kind of society and what kind of humanity and what kind of what idea of mankind will it lead to? I believe that this approach can be can work as kind of an early indicator or early warning system. So this is, of course, my own optimistic approach. I think I'm not a cultural pessimist, as I like to be an optimist. This is an approach that assumes that cultural creativity and literary production can have a positive or maybe even a protective effect on a society. The basic tone of the story, though, is of course extremely pessimistic. So the attempt to revolt against the inhumanity of the system and to make life meaningful and worth living through these small moments of leisure and nonsense. This attempt has failed. But at least maybe we can take this as an incentive not to let it come to that. What I really like stylistically is that we are not presented with this world in a perfectly arranged way from the very beginning, but that it only reveals itself to us bit by putting all these pieces together and gradually putting together small clues in our heads so then the picture becomes clearer and clearer with every sentence or paragraph that we read. And I find the introduction of the story particularly successful and well chosen. It is an introduction that shows us that this dystopia is not so far removed from our reality and not just since yesterday, not just in our hectic world of the 21st century, but that at least our Western world has been heading towards such a ruthless, utilitarian, optimized society for a long time. Because at the beginning of the story, there's a quote from an essay written by Henry David Thoreau. It's an essay entitled On the Duty of Disobedience to the State. And it was written almost around about 170 years ago. It was written in 1849. I quote, it's not a literal quote, I'm paraphrasing. So, most men serve the state with their bodies, not as men, but as machines. In most cases, there is no longer any room for their own judgment or moral feeling. They are on the same level as wood and stones. Such beings command no more respect than a straw doll or a clod of dirt. They are no more valuable than horses or dogs. Only few men serve the state with their conscience, and therefore they often must oppose the state, and they are usually treated as enemies by it. Henry David Thoreau, 1849. I would like to stop here. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope I've been able to raise your interest in this author and in this short story. If so, let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to read your comments, your questions, your remarks on that. Hope to see you next time for another video. In the meantime, have a lot of joy reading. Take care. Bye-bye and ciao.